The office tower stood hollow and silent past midnight, the hum of the city faint below. Michael Grant's reflection glided across the glass walls as he marched toward the conference room, irritation sharp in his chest. Inside, Maria Alvarez knelt beside a chair, whispering softly to the air. Her small voice broke through the stillness like a candle flicker in the dark. He laughed, cold and cutting, asking if she thought her prayers could clean his company better than her mop. Thought Grace Lynn, frozen in the doorway, lowered her eyes as Maria simply smiled and said, "Sir, even the floor you walk on deserves a blessing." For a brief second, the light above them flickered, as if the building itself hesitated to take sides. Somewhere in Michael's chest, something small and unfamiliar twisted, but he ignored it, stepping into the shadow where the sound of her prayer lingered longer than it should have. Morning breaks over the city skyline. Michael stands in his glass office, replaying the image of Maria praying. Her words still echo, quiet yet piercing. Grace knocks softly, reminding him of the upcoming investor call. He nods, but his eyes drift toward the empty hallway beyond the conference room. Something about her calm unsettles him more than her defiance. Maria moves silently down the hallway, mop gliding across marble floors. The building hums with early movement, but her rhythm remains unbroken. A soft tune hums from her lips, a prayer without words. Workers pass her without noticing. Her eyes, calm and bright, hold stories no one asks about. Grace catches Maria in the break room later, her gentle humming filling the air. She asks softly if Mariah's prayers are for anyone in particular. Maria only smiles, saying, "For those who forget to ask for help." Grace stands silent, unsure why the words sting. That night, long after everyone leaves, Michael passes the empty conference room again. The chair she knelt beside still bears the faint mark of her touch. The silence feels heavier now. Outside, thunder rumbles, and for the first time, he wonders who she was praying for. The rain had not stopped for 2 days. The city glistened in silver streaks beneath Michael's window as he stayed late again, his reflection haunted by exhaustion. Papers lay scattered across his desk, figures, losses, deadlines, all blurring into static. As he walked down the hallway, he caught sight of Mariah's cleaning cart parked near the elevator. On top of it rested a small, worn prayer book, its corners frayed, pages soft from use. He opened it absent-mindedly, flipping through lines of looping handwriting until his heart froze. His own name, Michael Grant, written carefully, underlined twice. The sound of rain grew louder. He closed the book, but the feeling didn't leave. Something inside him shifted, quietly but deeply. He turns the book over, running a thumb across its cracked spine. The air feels thick, as if the building itself is watching. He remembers her words, "Even the floor you walk on deserves a blessing." And suddenly the sound of her prayer returns, echoing faintly from somewhere distant, though no one else is there. The elevator dings softly behind him. Grace steps out, surprise flickering across her face when she sees him holding the book. She asks what he's doing there so late. He doesn't answer, just closes the small volume and slips it into the cart again. The look in his eyes unsettles her. It isn't anger, it's fear. Later in his office, the sound of rain blends with the hum of city traffic. Michael sits at his desk staring at nothing. He opens a drawer, pulls out a photo of his father long gone. A man who used to pray before every meal. The memory tastes strange now, like something both tender and foreign. He wonders when he stopped believing in anything but himself. As he locks his office for the night, Michael glances down the hallway toward the janitor's closet. The faint hum of a small radio drifts from inside, an old hymn, soft and pure. He stands there for a long time, listening. When the song ends, he whispers something almost inaudible, a thank you or maybe a question, and walks away. The week crawled forward with a strange heaviness. Michael's meetings blurred together, his voice losing its edge. Every deal he touched began to crumble. Partners withdrew. Investors stalled. At night, when he looked at his reflection in the glass, he thought he saw someone else staring back. Sleep abandoned him. Somewhere between exhaustion and disbelief, he began hearing a whisper whenever he passed the conference room. It wasn't words, just a presence. And each time he thought of that prayer book with his name written in soft, forgiving ink. The next morning, Grace entered quietly to find him already there. Shirt wrinkled, eyes hollow. She asked if he was all right. He brushed it off with a muttered "fine," but his hand shook as he reached for his coffee. She noticed the prayer book peeking from the corner of his briefcase, its worn spine slightly open. Something about it didn't belong in his world of contracts and deadlines. By afternoon, an important merger collapsed. Michael stood before the boardroom window, phone in hand, listening to the silence on the other end. The city stretched below, unmoved, uncaring. He caught sight of Maria down the hallway, pushing her cart, her head bowed as if shielding herself from something unseen. For reasons he couldn't explain, his chest tightened. That night he dreamt of water filling the conference room, rising fast, swallowing everything, the glass, the tables, even the light. He woke gasping, drenched in sweat. The city was silent outside. He reached for his phone, but the screen was black. On his desk, the prayer book sat open again. He hadn't touched it. The next morning, the storm cleared. The city seemed washed clean. But inside Michael, something still thundered. As he walked into the lobby, Maria passed by him, humming softly, her eyes kind but knowing. For the first time, he didn't look away. Their gazes met, just a second, but long enough for him to feel seen in a way that frightened him. The kind of seeing that strips you down to the truth. By the fourth evening, Michael's patience had broken. The weight of failure, the sleepless nights, the sound of that quiet hymn lingering in his mind. It all pushed him to the edge. He found Maria in the supply hallway, refilling her mop bucket. She looked up, calm as ever, her smile small but steady. "What's my name?" he demanded, voice sharp with confusion. She paused, studying his face as if searching for something beneath his anger. "Because," she said gently, "you looked like a man who forgot what peace feels like." His voice lowered, rough with something unfamiliar. "You don't even know me." She smiled again, that same unshakable calm that made him feel exposed. "I don't need to," she whispered. "Pain looks the same on everyone." The words cut deeper than he expected. For a moment, he forgot how to respond. He stepped back as if the air between them had shifted. The hallway felt smaller now, quieter. "You pray for everyone?" he asked, the words breaking apart as they left his mouth. "Everyone who seems lost," she said, returning to her bucket. "And sometimes," she added, "for myself, to remember kindness when others forget it." He didn't speak for a long moment. Her quiet strength made his anger seem childish, hollow. The hallway clock ticked softly. "You shouldn't waste prayers on people like me," he muttered. Maria looked up, her eyes kind but firm. "There's no such thing as a wasted prayer," she said. The air felt still, holy in a way he couldn't explain. As Michael turned to leave, he stopped at the doorway, her words still echoing in his chest. For the first time in years, he didn't feel powerful or in control, just human. Maria quietly resumed her work, humming the same melody he'd heard in his dreams. The sound followed him down the hall, steady and warm like forgiveness walking behind him. 2 weeks later, the walls of Michael's world began to crumble. A deal he'd built for years collapsed overnight, sending ripples through the company. He shouted, slammed doors, and sent everyone home early. But when the noise was gone, the silence was unbearable. Sitting alone in his glass office, his chest tightened, a pain sharp and deep, he gasped for air, reaching for his phone but dropping it as everything blurred. The city lights outside wavered, and for the first time, he thought he might not wake up. He awoke in a hospital bed hours later, wires attached to his chest, the rhythmic beep of monitors filling the room. The sterile air felt thick with regret. Grace sat nearby, her eyes red, clutching her phone. "They said you collapsed," she whispered. He turned away, his voice faint. "I think I've been collapsing for years." Late that night, Michael stirred from a restless dream. Through the faint hum of machines, he heard it. A familiar melody, soft and steady, drifting from the hallway outside his door. It was the same tune Maria always hummed while she worked. He blinked, unsure if it was memory or miracle, but the sound wrapped around him like warmth in winter. The nurse entered, surprised to see Maria there so late. "He used to scare me," Maria whispered. "Now I just pray he finds peace." She placed her hand gently on the doorframe, eyes closed. Inside, Michael watched her shadow move against the light, feeling something unspoken tear loose inside him, something that felt like forgiveness. When morning came, the sunlight reached his bed like a quiet blessing. He pressed the call button, asking the nurse to send Maria in. But she had already left. Her shift ended before dawn. On the nightstand sat a folded note written in careful cursive. "Some prayers take longer to be heard." He read it 3 times, each word sinking deeper. For the first time, Michael Grant wept. Not from pain, but from something that finally felt clean. 2 weeks after the hospital, Michael returned to work. But the man who stepped out of the elevator was no longer the same. The sharpness in his stride was gone. The power in his voice softened. Colleagues whispered that the CEO had changed. He smiled now, even said thank you. As he walked past the janitor's closet, he paused, the faint scent of cleaning soap and quiet prayers still lingering. For the first time, he didn't look down. He looked inward. He found Maria later that evening in the same conference room where everything had begun. She was cleaning the table, humming softly, unaware of his presence. When she turned, she froze for a moment before smiling. Michael pulled out a chair and sat down across from her, his voice low and steady. "Would you teach me?" he asked. She blinked, unsure. "Teach you what?" he smiled faintly. "How to pray." Maria hesitated, then placed the rag down and folded her hands. "You don't need to learn my way," she said softly. "Just close your eyes and be honest. That's where prayer begins." Michael closed his eyes, uncertain but willing. For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the city below filled the silence like breath. When he opened his eyes, something had shifted. A weight had left him, quiet and complete. He looked at Maria, and in her eyes, he saw no judgment, only peace. "I never thought silence could be so full," he whispered. Maria smiled. "That's because you finally stopped listening to yourself," she said, gathering her things with gentle grace. As she left the room, the light flickered once more, not in warning, but as if acknowledging something unseen. Michael remained seated, staring at the empty chair she'd left behind. For the first time in his life, he whispered a prayer. Not for profit, not for power, but for gratitude. Outside, the city breathed, and inside, so did he. Months passed. The building felt lighter now, laughter echoing where tension once lived. Michael no longer rushed through halls or barked orders. He listened, he smiled, he remembered names. And every Friday evening, he stopped by the conference room at the same hour Maria used to pray. He'd sit alone for a few minutes, not to ask for anything, but to give thanks. His empire hadn't grown, but his soul finally had. When Maria announced her retirement, the office gathered for a small farewell. Michael stood at the back, watching her receive a modest bouquet and a cake she insisted was too much. When the others left, he approached quietly, holding a small box. "You've given more to this place than anyone ever could," he said. She smiled softly. "All I did was clean what others left behind." She opened the box slowly. Inside lay a new prayer book, bound in soft brown leather, blank except for the first page. Her eyes widened as she read the name written there, Maria Alvarez. She looked up, tears forming as Michael said quietly, I thought it was time I started praying for someone else. The room seemed to glow brighter for a moment, as if heaven itself nodded in approval. Maria closed the book and pressed it to her heart. You already started praying, she said, her voice trembling. You just didn't know it yet. They shared a quiet laugh that lingered longer than the sound deserved. When she turned to leave, Michael didn't stop her. He simply watched, knowing that some goodbyes are just the beginning of peace. That night, Michael returned to the empty conference room. The city lights shimmered through the glass, and the chair where Maria once knelt stood untouched. He placed a single white rose on the table beside her old mop bucket, then knelt quietly, closing his eyes. For the first time, his prayer had no words, only gratitude carried on the soft hum of the city below.